It seems like Jeffrey Epstein and his entire network have completely infiltrated all elements of our lives. And now we have evidence that he's even infiltrated some of our favorite Disney movies. What I'm about to share with you today is actually insane. And when I saw it, I was deeply surprised. The movie Enchanted from Disney, that's the focus of today's video. We're gonna deep dive and show proof as to how Jeffrey Epstein not only has ties with the movie, but the director, and is even in some way in the movie himself. To take you through this experience, I'm drinking myself an iced coffee, which I have half finished already. Let me know what you're drinking right at this moment as you're about to watch this video. Thank you guys for subscribing. Now, let's dive in.
So I'm gonna play the ending here of Enchanted, and I'm not gonna use any of the audio because obviously there are copyright issues, and I might flip the video around. It just depends. YouTube is so weird with copyright, but just check out this clip. So you can see this is the ending of the film. They're at some sort of I haven't seen this movie in forever. They're making bridal gowns or gowns for little kids, and here we go. We see a lot of little girls in princess outfits. They're surrounding the princess. Now the scene changes, and bang, what do you see right there? Let's do a zoom in. Up top right here, Epstein's books.
Okay, it says Epstein's books. Epstein, probably known for the Epstein files and Jeffrey Epstein. I don't think that name is really known anywhere else, although it's probably a fairly common last name. This is just the start of all of the connections that we're going to see on how Jeffrey Epstein is, without a doubt, in some way connected to Enchanted. A film, a movie that our little children were watching and that kids were starring in. And I'll tell you why that gets even worse in a little bit.
Epstein's books. Right there you can get kind of a closer look. Old, new, rare, whatever. I can't see that word. Epstein's books. Now, what initially caught my interest is the fact that a lot of people were talking online about how this shot, just not to nitpick, but it literally transitions from a group of little girls to a bookstore called Epstein's Books. And, you know, there are a lot of people named Epstein out there, and I know that there are going to be people out there that say, Colin, there are a ton of people with the name Epstein. Let's see, how many people are named Epstein? Well, actually, I mean, that's not that many. 12,952 individuals. It's the 2,786th most common surname. But yeah, there's thousands of people named Epstein in the world. It's reasonable to believe that there might be an Epstein's Books in New York City where the film takes place.
And if this were the only connection to Enchanted and Jeffrey Epstein, you could say, okay, you know, it's probably another Epstein. But the other connections that we're going to be seeing really solidify that it was Jeffrey Epstein.
But this gets incredibly strange.
Yeah.
Let me show you now some photos from the Epstein files. So I don't know if you've seen these before, but these are pictures found in the files that show Epstein and a group of, I don't know if they're survivors or people that are tied into Epstein, on the set of a film. Now, specifically, when we get to this portion of the photos, we can see this man whose identity is unredacted, Jeffrey Epstein right here. And then I believe this is Karina Shuliak, Epstein's girlfriend at the time of his death, if you believe he's dead. And yeah, you can see Epstein's really hanging out with this guy. Here they are again from behind. Here's Epstein and Karina. Here's this giant set that they've constructed for this film. I thought this looked like Sean Bean, is that his name? The guy from Game of Thrones at first, but I think it isn't him. But then we got the director's tent right here, the producer's tent.
Let's go back to that for a second. So you got the producer's tent, right? There's a picture of Jeffrey Epstein. Let me get this picture. Right here. There's a picture of Jeffrey Epstein in the producer's tent. Let's zoom in on that really quickly because there is a clear connection of Jeffrey Epstein in the production of this film. He is in there with the Hollywood producers and part of the production of these films, lending influence to the shows and the movies that our children are watching. this is still just a breadcrumb of the proof that we have here.
On the film set, here's a picture of Karina and somebody else. Karina in the car.
There it is.
Epstein hanging out with the director, producer. Here he is with this guy. Very, very close. Interestingly, I believe this is like New Mexico water here. But yeah, Epstein's introducing this guy to girls. Here they are in the workshop.
Notice there's Epstein in different clothing as well. So this is not just from one day. This is from multiple different days of him being on the set.
The film, Epstein again with this guy. Oh, we'll come back to that. Epstein with some redacted women. Epstein and the guy. I mean, there's so many pictures. This guy's obviously close with Epstein. And this is Epstein and Karina. So we need to go back to this. This is an image of, like I said, I believe Karina Shuliak, Epstein's girlfriend, in the executive producer's chair. Well, before we get to that, we have to show you what the film is. You can see, I think this was a pilot for a TV show called Edge. Yep, a 2015 show called Edge.
Now, stick with us here, because no, this is not for Enchanted, but there is a deep, deep connection that is about to come together for you.
As you can see, there are the writers, there's the director, the cast, producers. We've got Barry Josephson. Okay, so this is Barry. Take a good look at this guy right here. Some photos of Barry. Barry's a powerful Hollywood guy, a Hollywood type. And if we circle back to these photos, who's this guy? Well,
Barry Josephson.
That's Barry Josephson. Right here. Here's a little flip between. I mean, he's a little bit older there, but this was over 10 years ago. Here he is with Epstein. Here they are in the tent. I mean, clearly this Barry guy is good friends with Epstein. You can just tell by the body language, the demeanor. I mean, just the fact that Epstein was invited to the working set of a production in general obviously shows that the two were decently close. And if you go into the Epstein files...
Yeah, there was clearly a friendship there. In Enchanted, with the name Epstein's books, on the set of this movie that's being produced, in the producer's tent, and yeah, there's emails as well, guys. And this is where things really start stapling down the facts.
Barry Josephson actually had a long and lengthy documented relationship with Epstein. You can see here are some emails between Barry and somebody in Epstein's world. Hey Barry, can you meet Jeffrey at 12:45 p.m. on the corner of Lex and 83rd? You'll walk 1 block to a pizza place. This is in June of 2018. Here's another from October 2017. A message chain between Barry Josephson, the producer, and Leslie Groff, Epstein's main assistant, the woman who worked for him. They're talking about trying to find the mysterious blank, making introductions. Here's another email from 2010 from Jeffrey to Barry. I pushed my flight to 4:15 for a morning meeting. Let me know if I can see you before I head out. It'd be great to catch up. So you can see that's 2010. Epstein and this Barry guy meeting up, catching up. Here's a message from 2013 between Barry Josephson and Jeff Epstein. You can see this is Epstein's email. Another email. I mean, we could go through these all day. Basically, you can see here Epstein writes to Barry, glad to see it blank. Still has not even had a walk-on. Please take care of it. Barry says, I'll definitely reach out whenever I film anything. Hope you're thriving. And as always, thanks for saving me.
All right. So clearly Jeffrey Epstein did something to save him. Is this just casual talk? Did he save him from something on the set? Or did he in some way help the producer in his life to maybe save his career or do something that was quite substantial where he felt indebted to Epstein for what Epstein did for him? Maybe even a financial thing.
So Epstein saved this producer, showing at this point that they've had a working relationship. Epstein writes back, thanks. So that's 2012. Here's another from 2017. Just exchanging messages between Barry Josephson, Leslie Groff, Epstein's assistant. They have a very documented relationship. That is obvious at this point. But crazily enough, Barry, it seems like, actually set Epstein up with a young woman. So here is an email from 2011. Barry writes, Jeffrey, I'll be in Miami shooting The Finder, a spinoff of Bones for Fox, February 22nd through March 4th. Will you be in New York before or after that? Best, Barry.
It's kind of crazy because all of these movies and shows that we're talking about that have evil entwined, in bed in the production or the actors and actresses. It's crazy because these are shows and movies that we've watched and loved and showed our children. But really, when you think about the putting together, the production of this material, it was done by people that were involved in some really dirty stuff.
And then Epstein cryptically writes back, any amazing women in their early 20s that would like to be an assistant? Question mark. And Barry says, for you correct, in New York City only or New York City and travel.
Okay, now let's say he was not looking for an underage person here. He was looking for something in their early 20s. But the way this conversation goes, it gets a little slimy, especially for a producer who was part of producing Enchanted that had a whole bunch of young little children all over the set.
And then we have this email. Epstein says both, sorry for all the typos, so New York City and travel. And Barry writes back to Jeffrey Epstein, I have the girl. Her name is blank. She worked for me on 2 films. Young, attractive, insane rack, smart, although not a genius, but very efficient. Will do anything and tight-lipped, period, end of story.
Boom. So right here, tight-lipped, period, end of story. How does someone know if a girl that he'd worked with on previous sets is tight-lipped, end of story? Probably because he himself or someone that he is associated with had some type of a connection with her where really gross things were happening and she just was a lockbox and didn't say a word about it. So he is going to provide this young, attractive, insane rack, smart enough but not a genius type girl to Epstein who knows how to be quiet and knows how to not say things, which can be taken in 2 ways. First, can be taken as maybe Jeffrey Epstein can do what he wants to her, which of course he probably did, but also can expose her to all of the terrible things that are going on in Epstein's network, and she can keep her mouth shut, be an assistant, and do her job without exposing all the dirt that's going on.
So Epstein is asking this film producer for a girl to become a assistant of his. And we know what that means in Epstein's world. It could be one of his assistants, like the women that worked with Epstein, like Leslie Groff, any of those individuals. Could also mean a potential victim, somebody who
or both
can assist Epstein in his operation. And I just find it really eerie that he refers to her as young, attractive, with an insane rack, will do anything and tight-lipped, period. Meaning this girl is young and attractive and is down to do anything, and she won't tell anybody about what she's doing. To me, that is really suspicious and strange. And what do you make of that? Clearly, this is talk of setting up a young, unknowing girl with Jeffrey Epstein, the super predator.
Now, in addition to this, we spoke of the girl herself. She's tight-lipped, and the producer knows that she's tight-lipped and maybe a great fit for Epstein, which also tells us something else, that this producer who produced the Disney film Enchanted knew of all of the terrible things that Jeffrey Epstein was going on. This was also after Epstein spent time in jail for a lot of these crimes. So on many levels, this producer knew what Epstein was up to. He knew what he was continuously up to, or else he wouldn't have specified her nice rack, her tight-lipped, not going to share any information. Those wouldn't have been characteristics that he would have shared in the email. It would have been, she's really intelligent. She does, she's really good and on top of doing her work. She doesn't leave anything unturned. Things that you're going to be looking for in someone that you want to work for you. Not good with keeping secrets and physically something that you would enjoy looking at or playing with.
And keep in mind, guys, this is 2011 when this is going on. This is after Epstein got out of prison.
There you go.
And was all over the news for allegedly, at the time, because it wasn't proven, allegedly trafficking and women and victimizing dozens of kids and teenagers. And he served his prison sentence. Jeffrey wasn't as famous back then, but he was all over the news when this happened. This was a pretty big story. Like, it was covered on mainstream media. He was a notable person back then. So obviously Barry knew what happened with Jeffrey. He knew he was a pervert. He knew he went to prison. He knew he was accused of trafficking young girls. And Jeffrey asks him for a girl, and he agrees. And he even says, I have the girl, young, attractive, insane rack, will do anything and tight-lipped, period.
Will do anything.
End of story. So, and then this email chain finishes out. This is a different document. I hate how they organize the files. Epstein says, where is she? Where is the girl? And he says, Los Angeles, she just finished a film. Want her contact info, or should I have her call you?
It's also crazy because they're talking about someone that's coming across from these emails as an actress. So strange that someone that is an actress in films would be interested in being an assistant for Jeffrey Epstein. So it seems like more of a side toy that he's looking for.
So we can assume that Barry Josephson set Epstein up with this young girl with, as he says, an amazing rack who's tight-lipped, who won't tell anybody about what Epstein does to her.
I would love for it to come out who this girl actually is.
Or puts her through. So why am I telling you all this? Why am I showing you these photos of this Barry Josephson guy with Epstein? This is, 3 or 4 years after that email was sent, by the way. Why am I showing you how close they are on set? Why am I pointing this out? They're sitting right next to each other with that damn creepy smile. Why is this a thing? Why is Epstein with this guy? And why am I pointing out that Barry Josephson is important? And he's a main character in this story. He's an executive producer. Well, that would be because Barry Josephson, let's just take one little trip down the rabbit hole. Enchanted, here's the movie. That's because Barry Josephson was one of 2 producers of Enchanted.
So he was producing the film that Jeffrey Epstein was on the set for with all those pictures. He is the producer, or one of the 2 producers, of Enchanted. And inside of Enchanted, there's a bookstore called Epstein's Books. And there's email correspondence between Barry and Jeffrey Epstein, showing that not only did they have some kind of a friendship, but Barry seems like he owed Epstein something, trying to do him favors with this woman, and probably other things. And it was very clear that he knew Epstein's history and what he was probably still doing to that day.
Yes. So, I don't know. That's the end of this rabbit hole. That's where this goes. I want to rewatch that end scene of Enchanted one more time.
So we'll just watch the end
what
scene.
We know now, with the transition in the film of all of the children, the young girls in dresses, to Epstein's books.
That transition seems very symbolic to me. You have a young woman with all of these young girls around. Then they all get closed into a book and put into Jeffrey Epstein's bookstore. Is that just coincidence, or are we talking about symbolism of what was actually going on with all of the network that Epstein had? Taking these young girls, putting them into his system. I find it hard to believe that that was all just a coincidence. And I'm very curious as to what you think and if you've ever heard of this whole tie-in with the Disney film Enchanted. I feel like we can go on forever looking down rabbit holes and making connections between the Jeffrey Epstein file case and anything else that's in the normal world that we never expected to see him pop up in. If you want to go deeper down the rabbit hole with me, come join me over in this video. And guys, I'll see you over there.